Well. The college football playoff bracket is set. Clemson takes on Texas in the Lone Star State on December 21st. We'll talk about all of that and more coming up in tonight's episode. Clemson Tiger fans, college football fans, welcome back to another episode of the All In Show right here on Clemson at the Voice of College Football. Thank you so much for joining me. Before we get into tonight's show, if you are not subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button for us. We are on the road to 6,000 subscribers. So if you could help us get there, that would be greatly appreciated. Hit that like button while you're in here. This is a live video. It helps us out a ton on these live videos and just in general. So while you're in here watching, hit that like button for us. Share the video with all of your college football friends and consumers. And then last but certainly not least, we got the super chat feature available for you guys. If you would like to support the show in that way, support what me and Jordan do here on the All In Show. Go ahead and hit that super chat feature, and we'll be sure to read and respond to your question and or comment that is attached to that super chat. And with all of that said, and without further ado, I'm going to bring on my co-host, Jordan Bowman. What's up, Jordan? How you doing tonight?
Good, man. Just glad to be back. On camera for once. And I know last show was a little bit different. I'm still recovering from the illness. I had the flu. So, if I have to pause and cough or whatever, I'm gonna go on mute. Y'all don't have to see that. But no, seriously, it's great to be back. Clemson is in the college football playoff. It's kind of hard to fathom considering, kind of how the season played out up to this point. And you and I were talking about scenarios about, like, you think back to like week 10, week 11.
Yeah.
And, after Clemson had already dropped that third game to Louisville and of course, even, just moments after losing to South Carolina.
Yeah.
Just the thought of Clemson being in the college football playoff was not even in the discussion. We were like, we were in the mindset of, man, okay, so what does this team need to do this offseason to get better? And what does Dabo need to do and change? And what things do they need to do differently? But then Miami loses, a couple hours after, you're still dealing with that heartbreak and that rivalry loss. Miami loses to Syracuse, and all of a sudden it set off this chain of events, and that basically accumulated to what we saw on Saturday and obviously the following Sunday. Clemson's in the college football playoff.
Yeah.
3 losses. Nobody was happy to see us there, but
the number 16th ranked team sneaks into the playoff on the back of an ACC championship game that none of us thought they were going to be in the week before. But, thanks to Miami, shout out Syracuse for paving that way and giving Clemson an opportunity. And, it's like we said going into that ACC championship game, Jordan, Clemson wasted numerous opportunities throughout the season by losing inexplicably, getting, pretty much dominated by a Louisville team, and then blowing yet another fourth quarter lead and ultimately losing to South Carolina. You almost did that in the ACC championship game too. But Nolan Hoosier comes through with a gigantic field goal, and we'll talk about that more. But, Clemson didn't waste the opportunity, and here we go. We are in the college football playoff. I know most people in the country are in agreement that we don't deserve to be there, but the rules are the rules. We won our conference. We get a seat at the table, and now we'll see what kind of noise we can make within this college football playoff. Certainly not a easy matchup in the first round of the playoffs, but when you're the 12th seed, that's kind of what you expect.
Yeah, absolutely, man. But at this point, and we talked about it. Like, we're just excited that this team gets a shot, and
Yeah.
obviously this matchup against Texas, certainly not going to be easy by any stretch of the imagination. It's a really good talented football team that's played. It's been one of the best teams in the country over the course of the year. You're going to have your work cut out for you, but I'm excited to see this team just get an opportunity, because it seems like they've, I think you have the players that are, going to try to make the most out of this. And you can tell, you could just tell, like, I mean, even when they got the opportunity to play in the ACC championship game, you could feel the vibe shift.
Yeah.
And so now they have a real shot, just to compete for and be in the national championship race, despite not really putting it all together at any point this year. And that's exciting. So we'll see how it goes, and it should make for a really fun. I mean, the field in general is going to be really interesting. I was very happy that they did not leave SMU out. That was
Yes,
I was very glad to see the committee was, they had some integrity about them in terms of, that, because I was really worried that they would find that a reason to leave SMU out for a close loss in their conference championship game to put Alabama in, but they didn't do that. So that was cool. And I mean, it's going to make for a really, really good field. And there's been a lot of discussion about the format and all that. And I'm just ready to see how this plays out, because I did not expect Clemson to be here. So
yeah, no, certainly as the season was going on, we thought less and less that Clemson had a realistic shot to get here. But nonetheless, here we are with an opportunity to make some noise in the college football playoff. And ultimately, we'll see what the Tigers can do with their opportunity. I know they're excited about it. I know we got a group of guys that are going to go out there and fight to the very end, win or lose. Who knows how it all shakes out. But I feel confident that this team will leave everything out on the field when it comes time next Saturday against the Texas Longhorns. It's going to be a great game, great atmosphere. First time Clemson's ever played Texas in school history. You get to travel down to Austin, Texas. Cade gets to go home, basically. So there's going to be a bunch of storylines that we can get into as the game gets closer, and we'll get into all of those. But before we get into tonight's show, quick shout out to the comment section. We got John Sarin in here, one of our moderators. Thank you so much for showing up, man. Appreciate your support. Dylan Spell, Isaac Smith, Smokey the Bear. Thank you guys so much for getting into the comment section already. Hit that like button while you're in here, guys. We got 31 people in the live chat right now, so go ahead and hit that like button while you're in here. Help us out in that way. Share this video with all of your college football friends. And as you guys know, at the end of the show, me and Jordan will turn it over to the comment section to you fine people out there, and we'll let you drive the show with your comments and questions once we're done with our planned portion. But we got a couple things to get into tonight, Jordan. Quite a few segments planned for tonight's show. So first and foremost, let's talk about that ACC championship game this past Saturday versus the SMU Mustangs. Clemson Tigers come out on top with a last-second 56-yard field goal off the foot of Nolan Hoosier. I don't know if everybody's seen the videos circling the internet since the game, but him kind of winking at the sideline or the camera, whatever, right before he kicks the ball, just ice water flowing through that dude's veins. Like, that's an amazing moment because he made the kick, but man, that could have went so sideways if the kick wasn't made. So it's one of those moments where it's legendary because he made the kick, but it would have went really bad the other way had he not made the kick. But he puts it through the uprights with a little bit of room to spare. But Jordan, just your thoughts on this ACC championship game. now that we've had a couple days to digest it, now that you're feeling a little bit better than you were on Saturday and Sunday with the flu. So now that you've had a chance to digest it and go back and watch the game and really get a grasp of what happened in that game, what are your just kind of broad strokes thought on what happened in that ACC championship game and how the Tigers pulled out that victory?
Yeah, just I want to start. They really did a good job. I think Clemson did, especially early in this game. I felt like they were very confident in their game plan. Honestly, this is the second straight. This is the second week in a row where they had a really good plan on both sides of the ball. I thought. I think Clemson was. I mean, they weren't flawless, but I thought they were the team that was prepared for the moment. And I have to give the coach Dabo and the coaching staff a lot of credit for that, because I think ultimately that was the difference in this game, is that Clemson had been there before, and SMU hadn't. And the coaches were that experience and just the pedigree that Clemson had, I thought, propelled them to that strong start early. And ultimately, it's in a game where you win by 3 points. A lot of those plays early in the game that you made mattered and put you in a position to win on that field goal. So, I thought Cade was really, really sharp, really for a lot of the game. Even in the fourth quarter, I felt like it wasn't necessarily him missing throws. It was more, play calling related, the lack of offensive success. Obviously not being able to run the football was a consistent issue. I thought they did a lot of things to kind of, manufacture a couple of run plays, whether it was Cade scrambling or a design quarterback run or a reverse to a receiver. Clear the traditional run game was not going to be much of a factor in that game. Just with Phil Maffa's health, they tried to get Jay Haynes involved, and obviously we know what happened with him. And so now they were kind of calling plays with a little bit of a hand tied behind their back for a lot of the game, but. I thought the passing game, they did a really good job of taking advantage of SMU's aggressiveness, especially early on. SMU blitzed a ton in that first half, especially. They felt like they wanted to get to Cade, and like he's been most of the year when teams have blitzed him, he's been pretty outstanding. And finding open guys, he hit the big plays. It was really, really strong execution by him and his receivers. So I think, offensively, you had a really good game plan, and, defensively, I thought they did a good job especially in that first half of, containing Kevin Jennings and, not allowing too many plays after the catch. Against with SMU's receivers. We talked about how much speed and athleticism they have on the outside. And of course, Brashard Smith at running back, who can do it all. They limited, kind of the impact of yards after catch and yards after contact. Wasn't too many missed tackles in that first half. So I thought it was a really, really good game plan. I think really as the game went on, I thought SMU adjusted, and that's where Clemson kind of, once they settled in, and especially in that fourth quarter, I think that's where Clemson kind of got in trouble. And they found their way back. They battled their way back just because of some unfortunate game management offensively, and defensively. Just not a lot of giving. You have Rhett Lashley a lot of the same looks that they had seen a lot of the game. They stuck to that 3-man front in the fourth quarter, which it was great at limiting explosive plays. But SMU was more than fine with going their final touchdown drive was 16 plays. And I think they went 79 yards. Like, they were more than fine with doing it, and especially with a team that runs as much tempo as they do. It doesn't really matter if you're playing, if you're dropping a lot of guys into coverage and trying to get them to use more clock, because they're a team that goes fast anyway. So, I say all this to just summarize that I think this team continues to show that they can scout really well, and they can, they prepare during the week really well for their opponent usually.
Yeah.
But when teams adjust, and when they, during the course of the game, they don't really seem to have answers for the other team's answers. And that's a problem, because that's part of football. It's your game plan is only going to carry you to a certain point in the football game. And if another team makes a shift, you got to be able to adjust. So it didn't. You made enough plays at the end to win it, but that was one thing that was apparent, and just another trend from this season.
Yeah, I mean, Clemson, ultimately, winning the ACC is great, and the opportunities that Clemson has created for themselves with the college football playoff and being that 12th seed and getting a shot against a really good Texas team coming up next Saturday is going to be great. But just talking about this ACC game, Clemson put together a really good first half, offensively and defensively, I think. Pretty much dominated both sides of the ball. Clemson came out with, as you mentioned, a really good game plan. But the one thing we've seen from this Clemson team this year, and you hit on it right there at the end, was, is a lack of adjustments on both sides of the ball. They're just not showing the ability to have a lot of good in-game adjustments. When the other team decides to switch things up and start taking certain things away that you've been doing really well all game, they're not really coming up with good answers for that. In that second half, they kind of started taking away some of the explosive plays that Clemson was hitting early in that game. SMU wanted to take that away, and they had a lot of success taking that away, and Clemson just couldn't get the plays across the middle and some of those intermediate passes. They couldn't hit on them. A lot of them were open. So I don't hate a lot of the play calling down the stretch, but we weren't executing it. And to their credit, they made a lot of good plays on defense, a lot of pass breakups and some tight coverages, but they really took away the explosive play in the second half, and it showed. And this Clemson team is an interesting team. And they've started to show a trend, specifically in the second half of the season, where not just the second half, they've kind of showed this all year, but a lack of, I don't know what you call it, lack of killer instinct, a lack of ability to finish a game. We have seen multiple fourth quarter leads now squandered by this Clemson Tigers team, and they almost squandered a 17-point lead in this ACC championship game. If you go into the fourth quarter of any game leading by 17 points, you should win that game 100 times out of 100. There's no way you should lose that game, or that you should expect to lose that game. But we almost did because of the lack of offensive production, and then the defense just kind of sitting back. And SMU started using a lot of tempo on the defense. As soon as they got a first down, they were going fast, and they were speeding up our defense. And it showed. The fatigue started hitting it, setting in. People started to not be lined up where they were supposed to when the snap was when the ball was snapped. So a lot of that reared its ugly head, specifically in that fourth quarter. I thought SMU did a really good job of mixing the tempo and really taking what Clemson was giving them and kind of being like, okay, we don't need the explosive play right now. We just need to go up and down the field. And they did that at will pretty much in that fourth quarter. So It's just something that this Clemson Tiger team has to clean up, especially if you want to make any sort of playoff run. If you want to have a chance to beat a Texas team, you got to play fourth quarters. You cannot have these lulls in the second half and specifically the fourth quarter and expect to win or expect to even be in a ball game late. When it comes to playoff football, you're going to get blown out. You're going to get embarrassed out there. So Clemson's got to come in with the ability to adjust. And I don't want to get too much into Texas, but you look at the guy over there that's calling the plays for them. He's a very creative offensive mind. So you got to come with a really good game plan and be able to adjust. But Clemson gets it done in the ACC championship game, 9th ACC championship for Dabo Swinney and the Clemson Tigers. He is now 9-1 in ACC championship games. So, and then I want to talk about the end of the game a little bit, Jordan, and just the crazy series of events for this Clemson Tiger team. You take it back a week ago where we go from leading South Carolina in the fourth quarter by 10 points to Lenore Sellers doing his best version of, Michael Vick or Cam Newton or whatever, and scoring that touchdown at the end to ultimately beat Clemson. And you go from that low and that just sick feeling of the season's over. Everything that we were playing for is over now. What bowl game are we going to go to? And more importantly, what adjustments are we going to make in this offseason to try to get better, right? And then a couple hours later, Syracuse downs Miami, and we saw that, and then you're at this high, and then you go into the ACC championship game, and you're leading by 17 entering the fourth quarter, and that lead just evaporates. And you got something like, 19 seconds on the clock. They kick the ball off to you. Adam Randall, of all people, are setting back on kickoff return because of your injuries to Jay Haynes, because of your injuries to other people. And he takes back a 40-plus yard kick return, sets Clemson up in really good field position. Cade Klubnik throws the ball to Antonio Williams for a great slant play, put us in field goal position, and Nolan Hoosier does the rest and nails a 56-yard field goal. Probably, if you had to pick a way for Clemson to win the ACC championship game, that would have been the last scenario. A game-winning walk-off field goal would have been the last scenario that any Clemson fan would have picked. But it happened. So a crazy ending to a really competitive game.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And, that was what, sometimes that's what football games come down to. Obviously, you would have liked to have not been put in that situation, but
right.
I mean, it was, that is a testament to, I think that was a moment where, Clemson's culture definitely won them that football game, because if you have, at other schools where, the buy-in isn't quite the same,
yeah,
you don't have it. You don't have maybe your third string, punt returner or kick returner who, has kind of fallen out of favor in the rotation at receiver. Like, just go out there and make a play and put you in position. And, I thought it was a great use of I thought Dabo did a great job, holding on to his timeouts. That ultimately, because, he called timeout right after that kick return to talk it over. The one offensive play they were going to run. It was well designed. Cade did a good job stepping up in the pocket, buying himself some extra time to hit Antonio Williams on that deep curl. It was just a very well executed football play, and Antonio, great, just experienced awareness to go down there and not try to get too much and try to go score, and then we don't have any time. And so, it was just perfect. And then Nolan Hoosier with just the ice water in his veins to go and knock that down, just lined it up. And it was perfect, man. That, sometimes that's what it comes down to. And that was really, really cool. So Just happy that Clemson gets to add another ACC championship to the banner to their collection. I mean, what is it, 22 overall now?
22 now, yeah. 9 under Dabo Swinney.
Yep. It is a testament. This is the premier program in the ACC still, and despite what people have said about the direction of the program and all that, that still matters a ton, and I know it means a lot for the players, so that was good to see.
Yeah, absolutely. What a crazy game. It was absolutely amazing. I did want to mention the lining up further back for the kick. You've heard a lot of reports come out about Clemson lining up at 8 yards deep versus the traditional 7 yards deep for the kick due to protection issues and a bit unorthodox, I guess. But hey, it worked, and they still got some pressure, but Nolan drives it right through the uprights. So clearly backing it up 1 yard was probably a good call.
Yeah, I can't. I didn't. It's not something I've ever seen anybody else do. But
No.
it worked out. We do have a super chat.
Okay. Yeah.
$5 from Steel Gamble. Wanted to hit that real quick. With Maffa, because we always forget when we let it sit for too long. With Maffa leaving after this year, I think we should pony up some money to bring in Eric Singleton. He'd be a great fit in the GR offense, in my opinion. Eric Singleton in reference to the Georgia Tech receiver that hit the portal. I don't know. I think he would be a good fit in Garrett Riley's offense, but do you feel like I don't think the money that you're paying Phil Maffa necessarily corresponds with the money that you would theoretically pay Eric Singleton, but I don't think that's a realistic option. I'll say that. The money that he's, from what's been reported, that he's asking for is definitely considerably more than I think anybody should really pay. So I'm not even saying oh man, Clemson they don't want to pay it. It's he's asking for a lot of money. That's all I know. More than a receiver of his caliber would typically get, at another competitively paying program. That's not. Yeah, I think you could do better if you were going to go out there. But if he was willing to bring that price down, I would definitely. I think you would consider it for sure.
Yeah, certainly something for Clemson to consider. I don't know that wide receiver is the position that, if they do choose to go to the portal, I don't know that wide receiver is a position they would be looking at. You've had a couple guys. We'll get into the transfer portal here in a couple minutes, guys. We've had a couple enter, but you got a guy coming in, and you're pretty loaded at that position group. Not saying that Eric Singleton couldn't come in and immediately contribute. I 100% think that he could, but I do think, and we'll talk about it in the transfer portal section, I do think there's some other more pressing needs for this Clemson Tiger team heading into next season, more so than the wide receiver position. I'm with you. That's assuming that you get all of the guys that we think are going to stay and come back. That's assuming that all of those guys do stay and come back. If somebody like a Bryant Wesco were to, just all of a sudden hit the transfer portal, I think that'd be something that you more heavily considered. But where we are currently, I don't think they would allocate that much money to a position that I don't think we really need right now.
Right.
Not that we don't. Not that we couldn't use the talent. We clearly could, but I think we got more pressing position groups that we probably need to look at and seriously pursue some transfer portal guys. So
yeah. I mean, if you're, especially if Clemson is really gearing up to get an impact guy at a position of need, like I think that money would be well spent on that and not a receiver.
Yeah.
Just yeah, I think right now you're still in good shape as far as the receiver room is concerned. But again, we'll see. And we're going to talk about the portal entries that have already happened, and we'll continue to talk about the ones that as they continue to happen. But as it stands right now, I don't think that would be the most pressing need either. So, but Eric Singleton is a very talented football player. He's very, very good, and in Georgia Tech's offense, he didn't get a ton of opportunities, especially this year. They were very, very run heavy this year. But he's very, very good.
Absolutely. Thank you for the $5 Steel Gamble. Appreciate you supporting the show. One of our regulars in here. All right, guys, I want you to check out Mark Rogers' book release. If you guys are interested in the historics of college football, go check out Disputed National Champions. Mark Rogers has published a book, College Football's Historical 1990s Reset. Kind of dives into the chaotic world of college football and championship discussions during the 1990s and that pivotal decade that kind of reshaped college football, the sport that we all currently know and love. So Disputed National Champions, College Football's Historic 1990s Reset, written by our very own Mark Rogers. I encourage you guys to go check it out. It's a great read. You can get it on Amazon, paperback for $9.99, or if you have a Kindle, you can buy it on the Kindle app for 99 cents. Be sure to leave a review of the book and give it a rating there and let us know what you think of it.
Absolutely. Y'all go, give it a review. Again, it's a quick read and it's chock full of information. So if you're interested in the 90s and how the evolution of our national championship and how we select a national championship game, all of that is in there. So y'all make sure to check it out, give it a review, and let us know.
All right, Jordan, moving right along into the next segment of the show, we're going to talk a little injury report. Coming out of that ACC championship game, Clemson is not the healthiest football team in college football right now. But then again, this many weeks into the college football season, as we enter the college football playoff, everybody's got injuries everywhere. But we're going to talk a little bit about the Tigers' injuries heading into this first round of the playoffs and potential guys that could be limited or out versus Texas. We don't know right now. Still a lot of time between now and the game, a lot of time for guys to get a little bit healthier, to heal some of that soft tissue injuries, to get off of their feet, which is what they've been doing for the first part of this week, is just kind of taking a break from football, getting finals done and all that kind of stuff. But, talking first and foremost, one of the most pivotal players for the 2024 season for the Clemson Tigers has been Phil Maffa, our 1,000-yard back, our guy that has gotten 99% of the carries so far this season. And we've seen him the past, probably 3 or more weeks at this point, and he just doesn't look well on the field. He's not running into contact, which is his style of running. He hasn't done that in weeks. He looks a little bit slower. He looks like he's in pain every time he goes to the sideline. I know he's gutting it out, and he's an absolute dog. But how healthy do you think a guy like Phil Maffa could get as we kind of have these couple weeks leading up to the first round of the college football playoff?
Well, I mean, with the unofficial, reports, Dabo is never going to. He's never going to comment on the injury status of a player that's actually playing. So he's never going to divulge that, but feel pretty confident that Phil Maffa has a torn labrum, and when those types of injuries, like there's not really much that you can do in season to kind of heal from it. So I don't expect him to be much better next Saturday.
Yeah.
In terms of his health, there's not really much that can be done. So I think the focus for this staff is getting Keith Adams Jr. and potentially David Eziamume, getting them in more involved in the game plan. You don't have Jay Haynes. That sucks.
Yeah, he's done.
Yeah, it is what it is. It's an unfortunate thing. Hopefully you get him back. He recovers and he gets an opportunity, but it's not going to be Saturday or next Saturday, and so you're going to have to get. It's going to be up to the staff, CJ Spiller, and the rest of the offensive coaching staff to get this running back room in a position where you can have some semblance of a traditional run game against Texas, because it's going to be long treading, trying to put up points. It already was going to be long, difficult putting up points on.
They have a very good defense.
Yeah,
you're probably going to see the best defense you've seen all season. At least one of the best. No doubt about it. So
if you can't run the football, it is what it is. You're going to have to. It's going to make it that much more difficult. So
I don't think you can have an outing rushing the football like you did against SMU. 64 yards rushing is not going to get it done. It's not going to keep you in a game against Texas, because if you prove that you can't run the ball at all, you're going to become pretty one-dimensional quickly, and they're going to feast off of it. So it's going to be very important. Phil Maffa, again, to your point, not going to be healthy for the game. How much does he play? I guess we'll see. I'm sure he's going to, go and give it all he's got. But if the past 3 weeks have shown us anything, it's that I know he's trying, but it's just not working. He doesn't have the burst. He doesn't have the ability to run through contact right now. He seems to be, a step slower. And then you lose your second back in Jay Haynes. He's definitely going to be out. You watch the replay on kind of how his knee got hit from the side there. Looked pretty bad. So don't expect him to play at all. But another guy, as far as skill position goes, a potential weapon that could challenge this Longhorns defense is a guy in Tyler Brown that is green lighted for the postseason run. How healthy do you think he could possibly be heading into this Texas game, and could you see him working a little bit more into the game plan, seeing as he's been out for pretty much the entire season?
Yeah, I mean, he's certainly had a lot of time to get right. I think, health-wise, I think he's pretty good right now. Just from reports. I mean, he's been practicing. They kind of held him in the ACC championship game as just kind of a depth. It's kind of a depth guy. And he got out there, I think, a couple of snaps, but he was not. They did not, go to him or target him at all. I think they've kind of been wanting to get to this point. I think you will see him at least a little bit more next Saturday, and especially with Troy Stellato being out and not playing, obviously hitting the portal, and of course, and we'll talk about Noble Johnson later. I mean, he wasn't much of a factor in the rotation anyway, but just from a numbers standpoint, there's going to be a lot more stress to kind of keep guys fresh and rotate guys in and out, because you're not as you're not as necessarily as deep as you were before. So I think you will see Tyler Brown a little bit, and I hope to see him make an impact, because I think he's another option that you can use. And not even just in the downfield passing game, but if you're trying to find other ways to create a run game, with sweeps and jet sweeps and reverses. Tyler Brown could do that, and he did that. We saw him do that last season. He's a guy with good speed, and he's shifty. So I think having him back and kind of using him in that aspect could be beneficial, and we'll see kind of how he factors into the game plan next week. But excited to get him back because we know that he can make plays when he's 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, feel like we're going to be pretty healthy along the offensive line. I think all those guys will be back and ready to go. So hopefully they continue to, keep trending in the right direction and getting even better. Glad that we don't play this weekend. Glad that we get a little bit of a break to kind of heal up some of that soft tissue stuff. But the running game for Clemson is certainly going to be interesting with Phil Maffa being extremely limited. We'll see how much he plays, but I don't know. Garrett Riley and the offensive staff got to figure out a way how to, manufacture a running game. What does that look like? Probably not lining up in the traditional sense and running the ball directly at Texas. That's probably not going to work out well for you, but you have to have some semblance of a running game. However, you have to create that. It's going to be important to keep that defense on their toes and keep the offense somewhat balanced.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's going to be tough. I mean, that, and we're not going to make this we'll have plenty to say about Texas next week, but, that is a very good, especially up front, that is a athletic group, and they are physical. They have some true freaks, especially guys like Colin Simmons and Anthony Hill at linebacker. Like they are, they've got some dudes. So yeah, I mean, running the ball traditionally was going to be tough sledding if you had a perfect health situation at running back. But I think these coming days and the next week or so, this staff is going to have to get pretty creative, I think, as far as their game plan offensively. You're going to have to involve. I think everybody's going to have to be involved in the run game, and you're going to have to just create ways to run the football, including screens. As much as some people hate to say it, I hate to hear it. Screens do matter, and they are an important part of an offense, and they are extensions of the run game. So we'll see how it goes.
We shall see. We got 64 people in the live chat right now, guys. Thank you so much for tuning into the All In Show. Hit that like button while you are in here. It'd be greatly appreciated. And hold on 1 second. Consider subscribing while you're in here as well. I lost my place. All right, the voice of college football bets. We'll be right back after a word from our very own Mark Rogers.
College football is even more exciting with some action on the line. And the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the voice of college football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Let's start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread. I've got a 40-year track record. In fact, in 2023, at $100 played per game, you would have netted over $9,300. And guess what? I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill, our ace in the hole, show stopper from Wager Talk. 6 years with the voice of college football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick, which went 21-5 against the spread the last 2 seasons. I repeat, 21-5 against the spread. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Steve Dace and Matt Zemek. Become a YouTube channel member or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click join, and select the betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2024 a winner now.
All right, guys, you heard Mark Rogers there. If you are someone that likes to put a little bit of wagers on college football, make some games interesting, get some money lines, and just overall make various games that you otherwise wouldn't be watching or interested in a little bit more interesting, check out the Voice of College Football Bets for all of your betting lines and advice.
We have another super chat from Steel
All right.
Gamble. Thank you for the $2. He said, David, easy time. Perimeter speed is imperative here. Yeah, you're going to have to get him ready. I think the thing with him has been the thing with him basically the entire season has just been, getting him to hold on to the football in practice. And he's a very, very talented football player, but, just as far as the nuances of playing the running back position, he's still, that was a point of emphasis and why they haven't really trusted him to carry the football at any point recently, despite, not, his redshirt, status is preserved, so he can play, but, they're not comfortable giving him the football right now. So, that's going to have to change pretty quick, I think. But that's been the thing with him is ball security. And you saw, even when he was on kickoff return, in the ACC championship game, he muffed that kickoff for that catch, and it was supposed to be he was supposed to fair catch it. So it just he's not all the way from the mental side of things. He's not all the way where he needs to be. And like I said, you're gonna have to get him up to speed really fast for next week. I think because I think you need to have some. You need to have more than just hobbled film off ready to go. And obviously, I think Keith Adams Jr. He's going to have to play some too. So you can't just hope that a hobbled film off is going to be enough to carry your run game. And
no, it's
well give the opportunity.
Yeah, it's 100% not going to be enough in this game to carry your run game. If you had a fully healthy Phil Maffa, that'd be a little bit different ball game. But obviously, Eazy-E's going to have to get in there. Hammerhead's going to have to get in there. And I know the concerns with the turnovers. I know the concerns in pass protection and things like that. The running back position is not only about your athletic ability to run the football and gain yards, but it's huge in protection. But unfortunately, our guy is hurt right now. Our main back is very hobbled. Our second string back is done. So this, your third and fourth string guys gotta get ready because Phil Maffa just can't shoulder the bulk of the load anymore. He's too banged up. That shoulder is clearly, looks like it's getting worse by the week, possibly getting worse by the hit. And I know he's a dog, and I know he'll go out there and give you his best, but you need some fresh guys out there that can be 100% when it comes physical wise. But we'll see how the offensive staff decides to play the game.
That we will.
Moving right along into the transfer portal, Jordan, it is officially transfer portal season in college football. If all of you haven't already noticed by the multiple names all over the transfer portal, by pretty much every team in college football has had someone, at least one, enter the transfer portal so far this season, including playoff teams, and Clemson has not been immune to that. We actually had a guy enter before the ACC championship game. So Going over some of Clemson's transfers so far this season, or guys intending to transfer. Former four-star Troy Stellato is entering the transfer portal. Former four-star Sherrod Koval entering the transfer portal, and former three-star Noble Johnson entering the transfer portal. So 2 wide receivers there, and Troy Stellato and Noble Johnson, and then safety Sherrod Koval. Troy Stellato and Noble Johnson got multiple years of eligibility. Sherrod Koval's got 1 year left, so he's looking for more playing time, as are all of these guys. So thoughts on the guys that have entered the transfer portal so far, Jordan? Did any of it surprise you? And what effect do you think it has on this Clemson Tigers team?
Yeah, I mean, well, we've already talked about Troy Stellato. Obviously, the 2 most recent ones being Sherrod Koval and Noble Johnson. You know, I think the writing was on the wall, honestly, with all 3 of them. But you know, I think these 2 as well, these most recent ones, with Noble, you know, he's a guy that came in, had a lot to learn from a fundamental standpoint when he got to Clemson, and he had some maturing to do, and obviously he's had some less than ideal things happen to him while he's been at Clemson, and so it kind of put him behind the 8 ball. You know, he's coming back from an injury this season. You know, at the beginning of this season. And so, you know, when you have 2 true freshmen, 5-star wide receivers come in and they're as good as they were, you know, it felt like this was a conclusion that was inevitable. And I think, you know, I wish him the best, because I do think he has some, he does have talent. You know, he comes from a really, really talented part of the state of Texas, and you know, he had really, really good high school tape. So, you know, I'm interested to see where he ends up, but I felt like this was kind of a situation that we kind of all felt was going to happen. And then with Sherrod Koval, you know, again, you know, when you didn't see him play much the last few weeks, you were like, okay, well, that seems to be saying a lot, you know. Especially, it was kind of strange because, you know, towards the middle of the year, he played his career high in snaps. I believe it was who was it against? Was it against Virginia? I don't remember. Sometime mid-season, can't remember.
I think it was Virginia. I want to say it was Virginia.
It might have been. I'll have to go and look. But, you know, he's a guy that just, since he's been at Clemson, he's never quite been able to crack and play and be one of the top guys, you know, in the defensive backfield. You know, he's had moments and spots where he's played, and obviously he's had a couple of injuries at different points in his career. But a guy I had a lot of hope for, you know, just with his aggressiveness, his downfield. Like, you know, coming out of high school, he was one of the hardest hitting players I had seen Clemson recruit in a long time. You know, but, you know, I just, it kind of felt like with how things were trending and the fact that, you know, his snaps were, declining from the middle of the season to this back half. It felt like, okay, well, that's probably a guy we need to keep an eye out for. And so
we started against Florida State.
That's right. Okay, it was Florida State.
Florida State.
I knew it was some point earlier in the season, but
yeah,
you know, so I mean, with all 3 of these guys, you know, there were very obvious reasons why they entered, you know, and I think, you know, they will get, you know, better opportunities elsewhere. So far, no surprises, nothing that severely impacts you? Well, other than I think Troy obviously being the most, probably the biggest in
Yeah.
terms of just production and depth. But again, none of these three should really surprise anybody.
Yeah, no, I don't. None of them surprised me. I knew that we would probably be losing multiple receivers come the end of this season. The writing was kind of on the wall. I think Noble Johnson makes a lot of sense, and the reason that he's transferring, and maybe for him, he's obviously you mentioned that he came in and he needed to be developed. He needed to develop some technique and some maturity and things like that. And he certainly had his issues at Clemson so far, although, I think he's, recovered nicely from that and, done what he needed to do. But you can't blame the guy for seeing the writing on the wall and the depth in the wide receiver room and wanting to move on. And the same thing with the Troy Stellato. I think he's obviously, from what Dabo said, he's looking to be a number one or number two guy on a roster, and that's certainly not going to happen on this Clemson roster, how it's currently constructed. His role was kind of what his role is currently was going to be his role going forward, right? He wasn't going to crack that one or two wide receiver on the depth chart. It just wasn't going to happen. So he's got 2 years left of eligibility. He's going to look for an opportunity where he can be the guy or, the second best guy on a roster. So wish him the best with that. Same with Sherrod Coble. I think he looked like he had so much promise early on in his career at Clemson. And then, the injury and, maybe hasn't quite looked the same since coming back from injury. And, part of that is probably being passed on the depth chart by other guys, younger guys. And you can't blame guys like that have, put in the work and unfortunately had injuries and, they're going to move on to another opportunity where hopefully they get more playing time. So I don't think any of these three are really particularly surprising. And, I think there's minimal impact to the current roster that we have. You mentioned Troy Stellato being the most notable one, but, I think we got guys that can slide in and take up that slack. But, kind of turning the page from who's leaving Clemson and talking a little bit about the transfer portal and Clemson, something that the media loves to talk about. Anytime Clemson is mentioned, the media loves to mention that, Clemson is the only school other than the service academies to not have a single start from a transfer portal person all season. They love to put that graphic up. Everybody loves to talk about how Dabo Swinney doesn't like the transfer portal and so on and so forth. But let's talk about, the possibility of Clemson utilizing the transfer portal this coming off season. What do we think the odds are of that? And then, if they do, what position groups would they possibly look at? First things that come to mind for me is, maybe a running back, maybe edge position would certainly be a point of emphasis if you were to go to the portal. What are your thoughts on Clemson in the portal this offseason?
Yeah, I think when Clemson fans hear the words transfer portal and in relation to Clemson and using it, I think it's always kind of especially now. I think it's kind of well, I'll believe it when I see it. It just seems like a fantasy right now. But between the reports, Clemson has been evaluating its options and has been actively, perusing the portal. How deep they've gotten into conversations with certain guys. I know some Clemson has been connected to a couple of names. I don't know how serious those have gotten. So until names truly actually surface that Clemson has extended an offer to, I'm not even going to spend a whole lot of time on this show talking about it. Yeah, because I think you and I are just kind of in the same boat of, well, we'll believe it when we see it. But there does seem to be a bit more of a concerted effort to truly evaluate the portal and have the funds necessary to actually land guys. I think that was one of the things that killed you last year. I mean, when you went after, a couple of offensive linemen, you didn't bring them home because you weren't offering competitive deals. So that was pretty. That's been a focus of this, this offseason in terms of Clemson and getting their NIL and their NIL sort of situation more in line, because that just was not working the way it was currently set up.
Right.
But in terms of like position groups they could go after, I mean, I think most pressing and most obvious this season has been Clemson's lack of pass rush for a lot of the year. Obviously TJ Parker individually had an outstanding season. He's 11 sacks, multiple forced fumbles, one of the best defensive ends in the country. But you just have not had, the consistent pass rush that Clemson defenses of old were, known for. Clemson has been pretty middle of the road in the country in terms of pressure rate and a lot of the advanced statistics when it comes to that. And that's just, with the talent that you have on your defensive line, that's just that can't happen. And the fact that you had to move your all-world defensive tackle to defensive end says a lot about how you felt about your defensive end depth. So I think getting a capable, not just a capable, but a higher end defensive end in the transfer portal, I think, is something that Clemson should be seriously evaluating. I think they are seriously evaluating. I think that's where I would start, because I think that's where I think this you need the most help. Because you're not. I don't expect anyone in this freshman class to really come in and step in and be that guy right away. As talented as like a guy like Ari Watford is, I don't expect him to be that day one on campus. I think he's going to be more of a project. He's smaller. I don't think Clemson wants to be bigger up front. I think getting preferably a guy that's started multiple years, on the and definitely more physically developed, I think would be the way to go. I think you could go and it wouldn't hurt to get a linebacker. I think it's going to be hard to convince, a linebacker in the portal to come and play with potentially Sammy Brown and Wade Woodaz coming back.
Right.
But obviously the depth of this season has been pretty questionable.
It's been an issue for sure.
Yeah, and especially with Kobe McLeod tearing his ACL early in the season. Yeah. You have not. It's clear you don't trust the guys behind it. D. Creighton, Jamal Anderson, like they barely saw the field. So that tells you a lot. Right. Similar with the running back position, it tells you a lot about how they feel about depth at that position.
Yeah, you gotta wonder that, what are the issues, at the running back position and at the depth of the linebacker position. Clearly, they don't trust any of those guys because, they roll out guys that are far less than 100% to take, all the bulk of the snaps, the meaningful snaps. So, it certainly leaves the door open for, should you take a look at a running back in the portal? Should you take a look at a linebacker in the portal? And I 1,000% think that Clemson should take an edge guy in the portal. Yep. Peter Woods, although he was okay out on the edge at times, he struggled with some injuries, but that's not his position. He's a defensive tackle through and through. He needs to be moved back to the interior of the defensive line, which is what they have done of late with Peter Woods, because that's where he's best served. And you need to go get a guy that's going to be opposite TJ Parker, that can take some pressure off of him, so that they both can feast along that edge of that Clemson front. Because, I mean, the defensive tackle position is still going to be really good next year and still really deep. So adding a playmaker at the edge position, I think could really go a long way for Clemson in changing this defense for the better.
100%. So, yeah, I think those should be the three positions that they look at heavily. I think they could potentially look at offensive line for depth, but that's always kind of spotty. And of course, it depends on who you bring back and all of that. But
right.
I think defensive end should be the number one priority, because the lack of pass rush this year has been that was pretty shocking at just how little you were getting to the quarterback at times, especially early in the year. It's gotten better over the last few weeks, but especially with moving Peter Woods back inside, definitely played a part in that, and TJ Parker just flat out taking over games,
feasting
at times.
Feasting over there.
Yeah, but that can't be you need to have a complete deep edge room.
Yeah.
If you don't have those guys on the field, it doesn't feels like you don't really have much of a pass rush. So
absolutely, completely agree. So will Clemson go to the portal? Really, none of us know. Obviously, there's one glaring position of need, I think, for the Tigers, and that's the edge position. There's a couple other places where Clemson could look to add a playmaker or two. But to your point, I hope Clemson has learned their lesson from last year and pursuing some of those offensive linemen. And I hope they take, if they're going to seriously look at the portal and look at adding some talent through that portal, I hope they learn their lesson from last year, and that you have to be quick. You got to be aggressive. You got to have a clear plan laid out for these guys, and you got to have a legitimate offer for them if you hope to land any of the big talent that is going to be in the transfer portal. So we'll see how the Clemson Tigers handle that. To be determined. I'm with most of the Clemson fans when we say I believe it when I see it.
Yeah.
But I think they should, at least at the defensive end position. At least there.
Yeah.
If we're only going to take one, take a defensive end. If you can only take one transfer guy, take a defensive end, because we're going to need it.
Yep, that is the most impact position, I think, of need. If you find a guy that you feel like is going to that can truly be an impact player for you, pool up whatever money it takes, go get him.
Yeah, absolutely, no doubt about it. All right, guys, we got 71 people in the live chat right now. Make sure you guys are hitting that like button while you're in here, getting us as close to that 71 number as you possibly can. And also make sure you guys are checking out the Voice of College Football Twitter page, X page, whatever you want to call it. I don't really care. The Voice of College Football Network, the official count. Check it out. Give it a follow for the best discussion, debate, and analysis without an off season. As you guys know, we don't do the off season here on the Voice of College Football. Me and Jordan do not do it either. We do this all-in show year-round, every Wednesday, 8 p.m. So make sure you guys are checking out the Voice of College Football on X and getting all of your college football news over there.
Yep, absolutely. I'll make sure to follow it. Post a lot of really informational, just schedule posts. So you get to stay up to date with the Voice of College Football network in general. And they also post fun, college football facts, stats, and commentary. So it's a good follow. And so y'all make sure you check it out if you guys are on X.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely check that out, guys. Also follow Jordan over on X at Jobo 0209. Make sure you guys give him a follow as well.
Y'all do that.
All right. Here we go. Get some set up for the next. All right, guys, moving right along with the show, we're going to talk the college football playoff bracket. Jordan, this past Sunday was Selection Sunday. And boy, were there a lot of pissed off college football fans this past Sunday when the rankings came out, when the College Football Playoff Committee seeded everybody in their seeds, and then obviously the rules of the 12-team playoff where the 4 highest ranked conference champions get the top 4 seeds and get a first round bye. And that was Oregon from the Big Ten. That was Georgia from the SEC. That was Boise State. And that was Arizona State. Those were the 4 teams that got the bye. And then obviously we got our first round matchups that will be played on college football campuses. So you got Tennessee traveling to Ohio State for a first round game. That's going to be an absolute amazing game. You got Clemson traveling to Austin, Texas to take on the Texas Longhorns. You got Indiana traveling to Notre Dame to take on the Fighting Irish there. And then you got the ACC's very own SMU Mustangs traveling up to Penn State to take on the Nittany Lions. Going to be another amazing game. The venues of these college football games, the venues of these first round games, I think are pretty amazing. Penn State, Notre Dame, Ohio State, and Texas, 4 of the biggest venues in college football. It's going to be pretty amazing. Clemson obviously plays Texas for the first time ever in school history. Cade Klubnik gets to go home to Austin, Texas, to his stomping grounds where he won multiple state championships with Westlake there in 6A high school football in Texas, where he played Quinn Ewers as well in high school and bested him in high school. Let's hope that he can best him in the college matchup as well. Obviously, another storyline heading into the game is Andrew Makuba is obviously transferred from transferred from Clemson last year to Texas this year. One of their starters on that amazing defense that they got. But just talking about the college football playoff, how it got seeded, how the brackets, kind of fell into place. First team out is obviously Alabama. We've heard a lot from their fans this week, a lot of loud noise from their fans. So just give me, Jordan, your thoughts on the College Football Playoff Committee, how they seeded it, and your thoughts on this inaugural 12-team playoff and the bracket that's sitting in front of us.
Yeah, I think mostly the committee kind of did what they had to do in terms of, especially when you consider, where the rankings were, heading into conference championship weekend. I think they I think they made the right decisions mostly with how they seeded this. It is interesting just with the format, how it's not necessarily the most balanced bracket that you would think it should be. but it's not because of the committee. It's because of the format.
Right.
Certain teams with higher seeds, have harder paths than teams with lower seeds. It's interesting. I think of the teams that are playing in the first round, I think Penn State got the easiest draw by
Yeah.
far.
Yeah. 100%.
I think, and as good as SMU is, I mean, I think you would rather be playing them at home, getting them at home than having to face, I don't know, like Ohio State having to play Tennessee at home, or obviously, Texas has to play Clemson.
Yeah.
It just, I think it sets up well. And then, of course, if you beat SMU, you get to play Boise State as opposed to a Georgia or an Oregon. I think it sets up well for Penn State to make the semifinals. And that's it's interesting because they were a conference championship loser and they're the 6th seed. So, just with the way this format has, worked out with, conference champions being the only ones that can get buys, it's kind of created some unbalanced, matches bracketeering.
Right.
I don't know what the verb is for it, but, I think that's one of the things that stood out the most to me is that, okay, well, this is probably going to be something they revise, when the contract gets,
I certainly think this is something that's obviously going to be looked at. I think some of how the rules place teams certain places give some college football fans some complaining to do, and justifiably complaining. I mean, you look at Clemson. A lot of people are going to say Clemson doesn't deserve to be there. College Football Playoff Committee seeded Clemson at number 16 in their rankings. So without that conference championship and that being an automatic bid for the Tigers, they would not be in this inaugural 12-team playoff. Instead, they get moved up to 12th. Bama's the first team out. They get bumped out. Their fans are mad about it. And I understand that to a sense. I know a lot of people, now that it's here, we don't like the automatic bids, and kind of the moving. Really, I think it's the automatic bids getting the first round bye. So maybe something that they could revise in the future is, you still get, if you're a conference champion, you still get an automatic bid to the playoff, but you don't automatically get that first round bye, right? So maybe that's one way to kind of fix some of the seeding issues you see here, where it kind of got a little wonky because you had to put a Boise State, who the committee ranked 9th, into the 3 spot, right? And you had to put an Arizona State into the 4 spot, which was ranked 12th according to the committee. So I think maybe a fix for it would be just seeding the teams where they are, and then if you still want the automatic bids for the conference champions, I think that's fine if that's what you want to do, but just seed them where they are, or do what you did with Clemson, where if they're the lowest seed, if they're the lowest conference champion, then they get the lowest seed in the playoff, right? So Arizona State would have been they would have stayed at their ranking or they would have been 11th, I guess, in this ranking, because Clemson would have taken up that 12th spot, so on and so forth, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and another proposal I saw was, reseeding after the first round and all of that. Like, I think that's a potential solution. But yeah, the format, is going to create, the way it stands now is going to, this is going to be a continued issue. Like, you're not going to have, properly balanced brackets. And that's,
the paths for each of the top 4 seeds, I guess, are vastly different.
Yeah.
If you look at how the bracket fell, right? Like Oregon, that's pretty tough. It's a tough draw. Being the 1 seed,
Yeah,
that's a
they're the
tough
one
draw.
seed, and they arguably have they probably have the toughest draw.
And you got to choose between Tennessee and Ohio State.
Yeah.
Neither team is going to be easy to beat.
No.
And I know Oregon already beat Ohio State, but it's not an easy team to beat, right? So there is some unevenness when it comes to the brackets, but a lot has been talked about the college football playoff and the brackets and all of that stuff. What are your thoughts, Jordan, on auto bids? Should the conference champions get auto bids? Do you think that's something that should be looked at in the future as something that we're going to take away from the playoff? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's been there's going to be a lot of people in the SEC and the Big Ten offices that are ready to do away with auto bids and all that. But I do think it's important to preserve the importance of winning your conference.
Yeah.
I think people are blaming this, the way this bracket played out on the fact that there are auto bids, and I don't think that's the problem so much as promising buys to only the conference champions. Like I don't think that needed to be a stipulation, because I think now because this is how you create that's how the bracket.
That's why that's why the bracket's so jacked up right now, is because you had to put Boise State and Arizona State in the top 4.
Yeah.
And they weren't anywhere close to the top 4.
Right.
So if you would have you could have kept the auto bids for conference champions and just seeded them wherever they were. Right.
Exactly.
I think that would have worked out much better in the bracket, and there'd be far less complaining about the bracket if they did away with you automatically get a bye. I think you should earn that bye, right? And by earning that bye, you need to be ranked as one of the top 4 teams in the country. You deserve a bye if you're one of the top 4 teams in the country. I don't think you necessarily deserve a bye if you're an Arizona State or a Boise State and you won your conference. Like, that's great. I think that should be rewarded, and you get a shot in the playoff, but a first-round bye, I don't think that should be guaranteed for you. So I think we're in agreement on that. Let's talk about Alabama a little bit, since I guess Clemson is responsible for Alabama not being in the inaugural 12-team playoff. Obviously, Alabama was the first team out, according to the College Football Playoff Committee. A lot of talk from their fan base, not only their fan base, but their athletic director, Greg Sankey, the commissioner of the SEC, all that kind of stuff, talking about, well, this is just incentivizing teams to not go and schedule tough out-of-conference games. And I guess strength of schedule doesn't matter, and all this stuff. And I find a lot of and look, I'm not saying that Alabama isn't better than Clemson. You can debate that, and it is what it is, right? You can 100% think that Alabama's a better team than Clemson. I'm sure most people do. But at the end of the day, Alabama lost 3 games, right?
And they weren't non-conference games.
That's what I'm getting to, is like, I think the argument of strength of schedule and tying that to non-conference schedule is so disingenuous, especially with what happened to Alabama this year. They lost 3 conference games. They didn't lose a single out-of-conference game. And the toughest out-of-conference game they played was Wisconsin?
Yeah.
A terrible Wisconsin team?
The first Wisconsin team in basically lifetime that missed a bowl game.
Right. They missed a bowl game. They're a terrible Wisconsin. Now, that's not Alabama's fault. You would think scheduling in Wisconsin, that's going to be a pretty good out-of-conference game, right? But for Alabama to sit here and puff their chest out like they're just playing this gauntlet in the out-of-conference games, they're not. They played one Power 5 or Power 4 team, in the non-con. One. So chill out with the whole non-conference talk. And strength of schedule, I think, did matter for Alabama. They were ranked above teams that had better records than them. So the committee did take the strength of schedule into account.
Yeah, they were ranked 11th.
But going into Selection Sunday, I think the writing was on the wall for SMU and Alabama, because if I'm an 8th ranked SMU team and I'm going to my conference championship game, it then should not matter whether I win or lose my conference championship game. If I was 8th above an Alabama already, how then would Alabama jump me in order to get into the playoffs and I fall out of the playoffs? That argument never made sense to me, because if that was the case, SMU would have had to been ranked behind Alabama heading into conference championship weekend.
Right.
Because the committee said we're not reevaluating teams that are not playing. Where they are is where they are, right? So if you listen to what the committee said, and SMU being ranked where they were and Alabama being ranked where they were, I think the writing was on the wall heading into conference championship weekend. So I know a lot of people disagreed with the decision, and there's arguments out there, and some of them are valid, some of them aren't. But using arguments like strength of schedule doesn't matter, it does matter. The committee obviously uses strength of schedule. You can see it all over their rankings. But Alabama lost 3 games.
Yep. And their 2 of their losses were, to Vanderbilt and a really bad Oklahoma team. They got bludgeoned.
Clemson lost 3 games too. Fortunately for Clemson, we only lost 1 conference game.
Yeah.
And that ended up getting us to the conference championship. We won, and now we got a playoff berth because of it.
Yeah, Clemson was still ranked.
Yeah, we're still ranked behind Alabama. Like, the committee thinks that Alabama's a better football team than Clemson. We're ranked behind them. We're ranked 16th.
Behind Alabama. The format is the format.
Yeah. So.
I think my internet went out. Great.
No, you're good. You're good. I can hear you now.
Okay.
Yeah. You're good.
All right.
Just thought that was interesting. So what are your thoughts on these first round games? Now that we've gone into all the whining and crying of the college football playoff, now let's just look at the college football playoff bracket for what it is. This is going to be some amazing football, man. I was not a proponent of the 12-team playoff. I did not think we needed to expand to 12 teams, but here we are. And the one thing I can say is I'm super excited for these first-round games, being on college campuses. I mentioned the 4 college campuses that the first round of the playoffs is going to take place: Penn State, Notre Dame, Ohio State, and Texas. 4 of the biggest venues in all of college football. I don't think it could have lined up any better. Your thoughts on these first-round games and some of the ones that you're looking forward to the most?
Yeah, it's especially, in this first round slate, it's there's going to be a lot of storylines in all of these. But I think obviously I'm looking forward to the Clemson game, but as a neutral, from a neutral college football fan, obviously that Tennessee Ohio State game is going to be really, really fun. It'll be, just it's cool to see those 2 brands go at it. I don't know when they ever get a chance to play.
We finally get to figure out if a Southern team can play in that daunting cold weather up there.
Yeah,
man.
Yeah, we can finally put that narrative to the test. It's about time.
We can figure out. We finally have a legit college football game being played in December in the cold. So we'll see if that old Southern team can hold up in that cold weather.
Yeah. Ohio State loses this game, there's going to be some, the conversation up there.
Hey.
Going to be real uncomfortable. It already is kind of uncomfortable right now.
It's a little uncomfortable right now. That might seal old Ryan Day's fate. I don't know if Ohio State will we'll pull the trigger, but there's going to be a section of that fan base that's going to be ready to freaking riot if Tennessee comes up there and beats Ohio State in the shoe.
Yeah, with a I mean, yeah, that would be that would be something.
It'd be crazy.
Then you've got the Battle of Indiana. That'll be fun.
Yeah.
Notre Dame and Indiana, like that. I don't know how often those two schools ever play. It's kind of weird because they're in the same state, but they don't have much. They don't have much crossover. That's for sure. They don't even really recruit against each other that often, but they're in the same state, so that'll be interesting. And Indiana will get another chance to play a higher caliber opponent and see if they match up better the second time around. But yeah, I think those two games are probably the ones I'm looking forward to the most.
Yeah.
Obviously, other than Clemson, but that SMU Penn State game is going to be interesting as well, because as much as I think Penn State got a good draw, I think SMU could absolutely win this game. And I would like SMU against Boise State in the second round. I mean, I think if SMU were to win that game, they could find themselves in the semifinals.
Yeah, there's definitely a good possibility that happens, and it's going to be a good game, man. I think SMU's got a better shot than people are probably giving them. But that's going to be a heck of an environment to go play in. Definitely as a college football fan, definitely one of the destinations on my bucket list, if you will, of places to go watch a college football game is Penn State. Seems like a really cool place, but SMU opens up, or Penn State opens up as a 9-point favorite. We don't have to pick the games, but where are you leaning with that point spread?
Oh, okay. Oh man, the spread is tough. I'm gonna lean SMU, but I don't know. Penn State has been a team that's just been so confusing to me, and I don't know. They played much better than I was expecting.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, against Oregon, I don't know if that was a one-game thing, but we've never seen Penn State in a playoff situation before. And they're at home, so you have to give them that credit. But I don't know. SMU has been a team that's been consistently really strong. They've played really solid football all season, and I don't know. A guy like Kevin Jennings with his dual threat ability, he can make things interesting against. I mean, that Penn State defense is really good, and that SMU defense I think could certainly get some stops against that offense. So it could be a very interesting game. I'll lean SMU to cover. I still feel like Penn State wins.
Yeah,
they
absolutely a good game though.
I think that's going to be
a really good game. I think I would lean SMU to cover as well. But yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a really good game. Ultimately, I think Penn State gets the job done. But yeah, it's going to be a fun matchup. And then let's see, the Indiana Notre Dame matchup. Let's see what the line is on that one. Notre Dame 7.5.
Ooh, yeah, sounds about right.
I'm gonna go Notre Dame. I think get it done.
I think Notre Dame covers.
Yeah, I think they cover.
I mean, as much as that Northern Illinois loss, I can't get out of my head.
Yes,
they have played. Notre Dame has played pretty flawless football from pretty much since that game. They've been pretty dominant, and I don't think Indiana, when they played a team with the caliber of athlete that Notre Dame has, and honestly better caliber athlete than in Ohio State, they did not respond all that well. And maybe they do it the second time. They do better the second time around, and they are much more competitive. Given that it's they're in their home state and all that. But I don't know. I think Notre Dame is going to control this football game. They're built to do that. They're not a flashy throw the ball down the field a bunch, score a lot of points. But Notre Dame has been a really, really, physical, run the football. They have one of the best defenses in the country. Like I don't know if Indiana is equipped to play that style of game. So I think Notre Dame might roll in this one.
Yeah, I think Notre Dame definitely gets it done, and I'll pick them to cover. But to SEC Dog's point, somebody's getting upset in this first round.
Yeah,
we'll see who it ends up being, but there's probably at least going to be one upset in this first round. It'll be interesting to see who it is. But Ohio State opens up over Tennessee at a 7.5-point favorite.
Yeah,
I don't think they cover that.
I don't think so either. And I think
I'm not saying they don't win, but I think Tennessee keeps it closer than that.
And I think because Tennessee, first of all, their defense, has been outstanding this year, but they have been a very, very good running football team this year. And teams that have, committed to running the football on Ohio State have had some success this year. So I think like that is a formula, to make this game a lot more interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not sure if they cover that either.
Yeah, no, I don't think they cover. I might be picking Tennessee to win that game. We'll see.
I might too.
I don't know. I think Tennessee probably pulls an upset there. All right, Clemson and Texas. Texas is an 11-point favorite currently over our Tigers. I'm going to hope that Clemson keeps it closer than that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of variables in this game, I think, though. Obviously, you think about that Texas defense and how Clemson has struggled this season against the better defenses that they have played. The running game certainly gives me pause for concern. Phil Maffa being not healthy and not going to get healthy anytime soon gives me concern. And then on the offensive side of the ball for Texas, they do got Arch Manning on the bench, and I would not put it past him coming off the bench in lieu of Quinn Ewers at some point in time in that game to give them a mobile aspect behind there, especially if Clemson comes out with a good plan on defense and their offense is struggling a bit. I could certainly see them turning to Arch and bringing in that mobile QB standpoint that is gashed Clemson a bunch this year. So that worries me as well. But 11-point favorite. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, we'll definitely.
Yeah, we'll break it down. You don't got to pick that one right now because we'll break that down next week. But
yeah, I don't want to tip my hand.
I'm not going to pick it right now, but I'm gonna say I hope Clemson keeps it closer than 11. But
yeah,
I
think they can. Now,
yeah.
Will I predict them to do that?
Will they be able to? We'll see. But there's a possibility out there. So we'll see. We'll pick that game next week. So a week from now, we'll be previewing that game and picking that game. So won't spend too much time there. But there you have it. I mean, the inaugural 12-team playoff bracket We'll see how round one shakes out. There's probably at least one upset on the board here. Who's it going to be? That remains to be seen. But it's going to be fun to watch every single one of these games. That's for certain. Can't wait for that Friday and Saturday of just watching college football playoff games on college campuses. Can't say that enough. I'm super excited about these being in college football stadiums and not NFL stadiums. So
100%.
All right. Let's go ahead and get rid of that and keep it moving. All right, guys, catch Clemson live on all your favorite audio streaming platforms. Wherever you listen to your podcasts, you can listen to all of our long-form content there. Just search Clemson Live. Give us a rate, review, and subscribe over there, and we appreciate your support. We got 53 people in the live chat right now. Hit that like button while you're in here. Consider subscribing. Me and Jordan do the All-In Show every Wednesday at 8 p.m. year-round. So we hope you guys will stick it out with us, not only through these playoffs, but through the rest of the offseason as we get into that. Around college football, Jordan, there is a ton happening in college football right now. We've talked about the transfer portal. We talked about the college football playoff bracket. Now it's time to talk a little bit of the other stories and the other headlines going around college football right now. First and foremost, I think the biggest one is Bill Belichick is reportedly going to become the next head coach at the University of North Carolina. What the heck?
I don't even know, man. I don't even know. What a weird. This was like when the reports came out, a couple days ago of this really starting to pick up steam. Like I was like, no way this deal actually gets done.
Yeah,
I mean, and with some of the stuff about like him having the reports of him having a big giant like manifesto that he gave to UNC about, from every aspect of the program. I need money for this minimum amount of money for this. I need you to hire a recruiting staff. I need you to do this. And I was like, man, there is no way that they're going to actually, come to an agreement. And now 48 hours later, we're here and it's official.
It's crazy.
I don't know what to feel about this. My brain tells me this is going to either be a genius hire by UNC and it's going to work out beautifully, or it's going to crash and burn. Like, I mean, they're paying him 3 years, $30 million. It's a 3-year, $30 million contract. Like, for a guy that's never coached college football.
And he's 72 years old.
72
I'm not
years
saying
old.
he can't be successful in college football, but he's 72 years old. Never, has zero head coaching experience at the college level, been in the NFL forever. And I know, college football is, maybe looking more and more like the NFL every day with some of the rule changes and NIL and now revenue sharing and the $21 million salary cap or whatever it's going to work out to be come July. I hear all of that stuff. And yeah, Bill Belichick is a freaking legend. One of the best coaches that have ever coached in the NFL, right? 6 Super Bowls and all the accolades. I don't know. It's a little bit of a weird hire to me. No, like I can't be the only one. Like, it's a little bit of a weird hire. Like, I don't see
A little?
I don't see Bill Belichick going out on the recruiting trail and visiting all these random high schools and sitting in, players' living rooms and talking to their parents about the University of North Carolina and why they should commit to his team. And like, I don't know. It just like, and like you said, it's probably going to go amazing or terrible, and probably no in between, right? So, maybe it goes amazing and North Carolina turns into the next Georgia. But I don't know. I find it to be a very weird hire. But we'll see. I mean, they certainly made a splash hire. I'll give North Carolina that. They made a splash. They hired one of the biggest names in football. So I guess we'll see how it works out. I mean,
yeah, man.
It'll be fun to watch.
I'm really interested to see how he builds his staff and how he starts.
I can't wait to see his introductory press conference. Like that's
Yeah.
probably gonna be gold right there.
Oh yeah.
You know how much he loves talking to the media. So
yeah, I wonder how much recruiting he's actually going to be doing. I can't imagine he's
probably just gonna hire like a recruiting staff and just be like, y'all deal with that.
Yeah,
I'm just here to coach.
Yeah, I can't see him doing in-home visits and talking to convincing teenagers to come play for him. That just sounds like something he would not have any interest in doing. People in the chat talking about his son being the next in line. I believe that was a stipulation. I don't know if that was a reported stipulation. I don't know if that's official or not. But
so Desperate Men in the chat asking how old Mac Brown is. He's 73.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, you talk about the stipulation of his son, and I heard that mentioned. Like, I don't know how true any of it is, but like that's wild. Like, if North Carolina was like, yeah, that's cool, we'll hire your son after you're done. Like,
yeah,
what? I don't know about that. Like, I would venture to guess that's not true because like I can't imagine a major university being like, yeah, that's cool, you can pick your successor. But I don't know. Maybe they did. I don't know. And how much is true about the 400-page manifesto or whatever you want to call it?
It's a 3-year contract, so it's like it's going to be over before his first recruiting class graduates.
Maybe he's just going to live in the portal. I don't know. Maybe he's going to pull a Dion and just kind of live in the portal and that high school recruiting thing, whatever.
We'll see.
So that's certainly interesting. Another thing to note, a new coaching hire in college football, Rich Rod returns to West Virginia. Another retread in college football.
Yep. I mean, Rich Rod in 2024, God bless him. We'll see how that works out. They are clearly desperate though. West Virginia, that is.
Yeah.
Obviously the Neil Brown experience did not go all that well. And obviously, when he started to have some momentum last season, he followed it up with 6-6. Well, they started out. They fired him mid-season. I don't even know what their record was when he was fired. But West Virginia is a job that definitely you can win at, and they've certainly underperformed over the last, honestly, really the last decade. But I don't know. I guess they're at the point where they're willing to try anything and bring back the guy that brought them so much success in the early to mid 2000s. We'll see. We'll see. But that was interesting. Oh, did you see while we were on air, Florida State also landed Thomas Castellanos in the transfer portal?
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Not the direction I expected them to go, as far as quarterback is concerned. I know there's a lot in the Florida State fan base that are not happy about that.
BC quarterback, huh?
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
We'll see. I mean, they hired Gus Malzahn as offensive coordinator.
right.
He does like those. He does like having a quarterback that can run, is really mobile, and yeah, I don't know. We'll see how that works out for him.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that works out. That's an interesting pickup for the Florida State man there. But I mean, Mike Norvell, to his credit, he's been shaking it up there, man. He's bringing on a bunch of new coaches and doing his best to try to fix whatever's going on down there in Tallahassee. We'll see how successful he is, but certainly can't say he's not trying. So
yeah.
All right. Next topic. This is kind of a funny one. I know I've seen a couple videos on YouTube about this, but have you heard about the Ohio State flag planting legislation?
Oh yeah.
This is just hilarious, and I figured we had to talk about it on the show tonight, being that we weren't previewing a game and we'd have a little bit of extra time. But I guess Josh Williams, Ohio legislator, is trying to pin a bill that would make it a fifth-degree felony to plant a flag in Ohio Stadium, which would come with the penalty of, I guess, 6 to 12 months in jail or a $2,500 fine. So, Michigan, beware. They might just cuff you up on the field if you do it again.
Yeah, that was crazy to me. I couldn't. I was like,
they're going to go even further than they're not just going to pepper spray you this time, Michigan. They're going to arrest you and charge you with a felony. Man, Ohio is a wild place, I guess.
That is. There is no way that bill gets passed, but that is. It's funny
what?
that, like, that's what you're like. If I was a citizen of Ohio and I'm like, oh, this is what my elected officials are working on, and
this is what our legislators are doing.
Yeah.
Instead of fixing things and creating policies that we need to better the state of Ohio, we're worried about Michigan planting a flag in Ohio Stadium. I got you. Okay, so now it's a maybe soon to be a felony to plant a flag in the shoe. So Jordan, I don't know if you were ever planning on traveling up to the shoe and planting a flag, but don't do it because you might go to prison.
Well, it crept my mind a couple of times, but now that this bill has been introduced, that's certainly given me second thoughts. So no, man, like that.
It's so funny and ridiculous that I kind of want it to pass just to see what happens. And then I want a team to go plant a flag in Ohio Stadium.
Yeah, like will they actually criminalize that?
Yeah, will they actually arrest the player that plants the flag? I just want to know. So there's a small part of me that wants this legislation to get through just to see what happens.
Yeah.
But Ohio State, you're not doing yourself any justice for the your soft argument in college football.
No.
And I'm not saying the university had anything to do with it, but it's still hilarious.
It's
they're going to get trolled, and they're going to get trolled on the internet forever for this, regardless of whether it passes or not. The trolling will never stop when it comes to this. So, sorry for you, Buckeye man, but it is what it is, I guess. I'd say I feel bad for you, but I'd be lying.
Man.
Oh man.
College
Crazy.
football is this, like, you don't get stories like this in the NFL, man.
You know, this is what makes college football so unique and so entertaining as a sport. By far, in my opinion, the best sport on planet Earth is college football. The fans are absolutely insane. The legislators are apparently even more insane than we are. But we thought we were fanatics. This dude's got a legit job where he creates laws, and he decided to spend a day and write a law up about planting a flag in a football stadium. So it's the beauty of college football, man. You never know what's going to happen. All right. Last thing we'll talk about before we turn it over to the comment section is Army-Navy game coming up this weekend. I know a lot of people love to watch this game. It is weird that Army played their conference championship last weekend. And they play Navy this weekend. That's weird. But I know this is always a standalone game, and it's always a big weekend for Army Navy, and the Commander in Chief Cup and all that kind of stuff. But I'm going with Army. I got to.
Same here.
So
you're obligated to.
I have to. Like the roles could be reversed.
Yeah. And
Navy could be the better team and just won a conference championship and all that, and I'd still have to go Army. Yeah. I'm obligated for the rest of my life. So.
But I'm joining you. I think it's all Army. I think they come out and win this game.
I love the dueling uniforms they do every year. Really cool. The special uniforms. So.
Yeah, the uniforms that's honestly been my favorite part of the game.
Yeah.
And just the pageantry and the presentation of it all. But yeah. This game has gotten weird in the past. Sometimes the team that was better over the course of the season, it doesn't always matter. But I think Army is just definitively better than, and Navy has actually had a solid season, but Army's they've been outstanding. So
yeah, they've been pretty special this year as far as Army goes. I mean, they got one loss on the season. That only loss coming at the hands of Notre Dame. So nothing for Army to hang their heads about. Hopefully they get a win against Navy this weekend. Go Army, beat Navy. And I'll certainly be watching it for sure.
Tig says, "Go Air Force." I'm sorry, brother.
Hey, Air Force is such an afterthought. They don't even get involved in the Commander Cup. They just pretend like Air Force don't exist.
Yeah.
Which has always been like, it's always the Army-Navy game. Like,
yeah,
dang, bro, they do Air Force dirty. I don't feel bad for them, just like I don't feel bad for Ohio State, but they do Air Force dirty.
I mean, if the Coast Guard didn't exist, they'd certainly be.
Yeah, the Coast Guard. Oh Lord, that'd be something else.
I watched I think a couple of years ago, I watched a Coast Guard football game from like the first time ever. Like it was like on a YouTube stream. I don't remember who because they're like D3, or whatever. I don't remember what division. I think they're D2, D3 Coast Guard. I don't remember. But I was like, I had no idea they even had a football team.
Look, they don't. They do, but they don't.
Yeah.
They do, but they don't. That's what they should do, an armed services playoff every year.
Oh, that would be. Oh my God, I would tune into that every year.
I would watch that. Just armed services playoff.
That would be cool. I think America would love that.
Oh, it'd be great, man. That'd be great. Must see TV.
Yeah. And the banter amongst servicemen would be so.
Oh man, it runs deep. It runs deep. The trash talk runs deep. Very similar to college football teams when it comes to the different services and talking crap about each other.
Oh yeah.
All right, make sure you guys are checking out the College Football Show with Mark Rogers Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Go hang out with Mark Rogers over on the main channel, the Voice of College Football, as he does the College Football Show every morning, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Jordan, next episode of the All In Show, which will happen this coming Wednesday, will be the 100th episode of the All In Show. That is absolutely insane. I can't believe we've made it to 100 episodes. It almost feels like we just started this show not too long ago. But here we are, 100 episodes in already. It's gonna be a cool episode. It's gonna be special. We're gonna be breaking down Clemson's game against Texas for the inaugural 12-team playoff. That's going to be special. So I'm looking forward to it.
Same, man. It's going to be a fun one. It's just hard to believe that we've gotten to this point. We've been doing this for 3 seasons now, and it's pretty special. And not just the seasons, the off seasons as well are included. So it's pretty crazy how much time has flown, and we're at this point. But I'm really, really appreciative of all of you that have stuck around, especially a few of you are day ones. When we started this show from the very beginning. So I'm very grateful at what we've been able to do. I don't have a drink. Well, I have water in my hand, but and I don't feel like drinking alcohol right now. But if I could do a toast, I would. We'll do a fictional one. Maybe we could potentially do a real one on the 100th episode. But and we're going to be breaking down a playoff game. Like that's pretty cool.
That's going to be crazy. It's going to be super special to break down Clemson's first playoff game in 3 seasons now. We missed it we haven't been to the playoffs since 2020. So 2021, 2022, and 2023, we all missed the playoffs in those seasons. So a 3-year hiatus from the playoffs, and Clemson ekes into this the inaugural 12-team playoff, and it lines up perfectly with the 100th episode of the All In Show. So it's going to be super special. Just to echo what Jordan said, thank you to every single one of you. We got 46 people in the live chat right now. We're 2 hours in. You guys are still hanging out with us, still getting it in the comments section. And I appreciate each and every one of you that just show up and comment and hang out with us. And it's just super special. Every time me and Jordan pop on here and we do a show and we see everybody that consistently shows up and supports us, it's humbling. And I appreciate you guys. Something that, I know me and Jordan have always wanted to do is kind of have our own college football show. And that's what we have thanks to you guys. So thank you guys so much for that. Appreciate it. Hopefully we can do something special this coming Wednesday. Maybe we'll open it up for some call-ins, and you guys can tell us, how you found the show and, all that kind of stuff. Maybe we'll open it up to you guys to, come talk to us and ask us questions and, tell us how you found the show, how long you've been listening to the show, so on and so forth. So we'll try to do that this coming Wednesday after we finish breaking down the Clemson Texas game, and hopefully we can have a cool at least call-in section there. We will have a guest this coming week to help us break down this Clemson Texas matchup. So we look forward to that, and we look forward to the 100th episode, and hope you guys will help us out by calling in, telling us how you found the show, how long you've been listening, and maybe ask us a question or two. That'd be great. So with all of that said, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, get us to that 6,000 mark. We're getting ever so close to it, grinding it out, and appreciate your guys' continued support with that. And yeah, that's all I got for the show tonight, Jordan. That's all we got. So maybe take a couple questions here, and then we'll get out of here for the night.
Let's do it. Good Lord. I was coughing up a lung like that last part of your monologue. So I'm recovering. And the flu sucks, man. I good Lord. I haven't had it in I think when the last time I had it, I was like maybe 11. It does a number on you, man. All right, let's see what you guys are talking about. John says, get Tim Beret for that show since it's before the game. If I could line up Tim Beret, that would be something.
That'd be sweet. That would be super sweet.
Dylan Spell with a BYOG or sell. He says Clemson will not lose this week. Oh, wait, is he asking
BYOG or sell?
Okay, I'm making sure he wasn't responding to another comment. It's hard to lose when you don't play.
When you don't play, yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and buy and say that Clemson will not lose this week.
Yeah, I'm with you. It might be a little touch and go, but
yeah, I feel pretty confident. It might get a little tight in the fourth quarter. You know, we tend to like to make games way too interesting in the fourth quarter, so it'll be a close one, a nail biter.
We have a comment from Joseph. He says, I don't chat much, but I've been watching since the preseason, and I just want to say thank you for giving me a great channel to watch when I'm bored or after games. I appreciate y'all. Well, thank you, Joseph. And we're always happy to hear from you. And thank you for being a loyal listener. You have a lot of shout outs to the comment section, but I know there's a lot more. There's even more of you guys that, watch, but, don't comment and or on the rewatch. So, and we are very appreciative of you guys as well. So, thank you so much. And those words mean a lot.
Yeah. Thank you, man. Thank you for supporting the channel. Really do appreciate it.
I'm going to save the BYOG or Tiggs has one for the Texas game. We're going to save all those for next week.
Yeah.
We'll have plenty of those.
Yeah, we're going to save them up. We're going to have some good ones next week, though. So we'll see how we do.
John, he asked about Scott Frost going back to UCF. Yeah, he did. That was one thing we didn't. I completely forgot about.
I guess it's just the season of coaches returning to where they used to coach.
Yep.
Rich Rod at West Virginia, Scott Frost at UCF. It's the year of the retread.
Yep. And it's a trend right now, I guess.
Me and Jordan were talking about that before we popped on. It's like, us as Clemson fans, we kind of, we get critical of the program, and rightfully so, because the program has slipped significantly from, where we were and, our 6-year-long playoff run and all that stuff. But you look at some of these programs and you're like, man, I sure am thankful to be where we're at now, and thankful to not be where they're at, because although we have slipped down the proverbial college football mountain, the bottom is still way down there, and here's to not going back down there.
Yeah, it definitely
is. No disrespect to West Virginia or UCF, but
yeah,
I'm just saying.
But especially in the new Big 12, it's that those programs are they both of them feel like they should be at or near near the top of the Big 12,
Yep.
and they both went and hired guys that brought them really great success, a long time ago, but still, we'll see whether it works out for either of them. There's a whole conversation in here about the Amish. This
We're talking
might
about
be
the Amish tonight. Hey man, our comment section they get on some rabbit trails sometimes.
Yeah,
you never know what's going on in there.
I don't even know how. I'm trying to find okay, I see.
The origin of the Amish conversation.
Yeah, I think Zachariah was talking about it. Gotcha. Don't even know how that got there. Tiger Tom says, Belichick, obviously a publicity stunt to milk the portal, then springboard off of it. Springboard off of that to big recruiting classes in a couple of years. I mean, I think potentially, I think you're going to see UNC. I'm sure Bill, had some stipulations about, how much, he wants to be allotted to NIL and all of that, and how much, investment he expects from the program. So, I mean, I think you're going to see them be pretty active in the portal this off season. So you could be right about that. I don't know if they're going to.
We'll see if it works out for them.
Yeah.
I don't think Belichick's there long though. Like,
yeah.
I mean, does he get? Is he going to get to a second contract there? I don't think so.
I don't think so, which is why I think it won't be so much about recruiting for him. I think the portal is going to be his is where he's going to want to live, and he's going to.
And I don't know that. Like, this is just speculation, right? Because none of us know. But like, does he even truly want to coach college football, or is this just something because he hasn't gotten an NFL job since being let go by the Patriots? And
who knows?
And should that NFL job appear, would he not be, out the door with quickness? I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe he is all in on being the North Carolina head coach and building that program and making them a championship level team. Maybe that is the case, but I just don't know. Just a very odd hire to me. But then again, it may work beautifully, and he changes the culture there, and he gets them going in the right direction. Who knows?
Yeah, we'll see, and just kind of how much involvement he has, in the parts of being a college football head coach that aren't, X's and O's and
right. Yeah, I think that's the difference, right? Is like nobody's questioning Bill Belichick's ability to coach football, but in today's college football, as a head coach, that's a small fraction of what you do.
Yeah,
actually coaching X's and O's football. The rest of it really takes up the majority of your time.
Right, because I can't see him trying to fundraise. I can't see him trying to recruit.
Yeah, I mean, you got to go rub elbows with the boosters and ask for money and I mean and then you're constantly talking to recruits and their parents and hosting these people and that people, and it's a constant cycle of recruiting, coaching, fundraising, rinse and repeat.
It's we'll see what we'll see how that all plays out as he settles into the job. But yeah, I'm going to be watching that closely. Zachariah asks, how do you guys think we should combat the issue at running back in our game plan? Well, yeah, I mean, you have to find other ways.
I think
screens, reverses, sweeps, lots of
quarterback run.
motions. Yeah,
Quarterback run game is probably
quarterback
going to
run.
have to be a point of emphasis. Getting your speedy guys out on the edge, maybe a Nolan Turner out on the edge. Maybe a Brian Wesco, getting those guys out in space, screen passes. I know Clemson fans don't want to hear that. And then you're going to have to trust some of those younger guys behind Phil Maffa that clearly the coaching staff really don't trust. They're going to have to pull through for you. Because Phil looks bad, man. Like, he looks really injured. And I don't know that he should play at all. It seems like every time he gets hit, he's over on the sideline on all fours, just trying to gather himself again. I just don't know. And I know he wants to play, and that's your best running back. But with his injury situation right now, does that
he
that
can't
help or
bring
hurt
you
you?
anything that he was that makes him as good of a running back as he is. He can't. He's not going to run over people, and
No.
he's not beating anybody off to the out to the edge. So it's like,
and
he's.
Yeah, and I've heard all the you've heard the comments and the message boards and everybody talking about give out Adam Randall some touches or bring Sammy Brown back there. You can't do that. It's just like, from an athletic standpoint, could Adam Randall go back there and take a handoff and be athletic enough to get the job done? Yes, but from a protection standpoint, he has no idea what he's doing. The same with Sammy Brown. Are they athletic enough to get a handoff and get positive yards? Yes. But from a protection standpoint, like, there's so much to learn there.
Well, and also it's about, you have to have reps there too. It's
Right.
Carrying the foot. It's like, yeah, they have the athletic ability to do it, but are they going to hold on to the football? Do they understand are they going to, your understanding of the playbook is different as a receiver versus a running back. When you're, so do you, are you going to be on the same page with Cade Club? Like, I think some people are treating this like it's college football 25, and he's like, oh, I'm going to just change the guy's position and we'll be all right. And, he's still and he'll perfectly transition over and it's we're going to run for 100 yards now. Like, it doesn't work like that. It just,
unfortunately, it doesn't. But
so, I think your best option is, try to get, the younger guys up to speed as much as possible, and find some creative ways to run the ball and alternative ways to create the equivalent of a run game.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, Garrett Riley's going to have to be creative, and if you're running between the tackles, you're probably going to have to lean on Hammerhead to run in between the tackles, and Easy E if you're trying to run on the perimeter. And Garrett Riley's just got to get creative with how he creates some running lanes for these guys. And Cade is going to have a big game. That's just, you're going to need your quarterback to probably play his best game of the season next Saturday.
Yeah.
And he's certainly capable. He can get it done with his legs and his arms. So that's what's going to be asked of Cade. There's going to be a lot placed on Cade in this Texas matchup.
Dylan mentions South Carolina promoting Mike Shula. Yeah. I think that was probably a move to keep Lenore Sellers in a I don't know, a familiar situation as far as his play caller and or in the offensive system. Just give him some continuity there. I think that was probably well, we'll see if that was the right move. Instead of going out and hiring a big name. Well, Mike Shula is a big name, but a more proven offensive coordinator, I should say. But yeah, we'll see. It was an interesting move. When the news that Dowell Loggins was taking the App State job, that was something that was told to me was probably going to happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see whether that works out for them or not. I know some people wanted them to go out and hire Brennan Marion. His offenses would definitely be a departure from what Lenore's has been running at South Carolina. So but it's a really, really fun system. So I don't know. We'll see if that was the right move for them or not. Let's see. Let's do a couple more. Dylan also says, y'all mentioned the year coaches going back to former coaching hires. Is that a sign Garrett Riley's going back to ECU now? Yeah, I doubt it.
Probably not.
Yeah.
But it could happen, I guess. I mean,
yeah,
it's within the realm of possibility, but
yeah,
I would be surprised if he left Clemson to go to ECU.
Tick says, Garrett Riley creative. Are you kidding? He's had some creative moments. I think Garrett Riley, I think my biggest thing with Garrett Riley is, as much improvement this season has been, is it's not necessarily the lack of creativity, but when you've needed it, he's had moments of creativity, but the moments where he's tried to get creative, have been questionable, especially as of late. And then when you need to go make a play, in the past couple of games where you're trying to generate some first downs and bleed some clock when you're holding on to a lead, you don't really have much. You don't really have much going for you, and you've had multiple points games this season where you just had lulls like that, and you haven't seen much in the ways of finding other ways to create some offense. I mean, you had how many yards of offense did Clemson have in the second half against Pitt before the final drive? It's like 20, 26.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, something like that.
Like that's
like 17 or 20 yards or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, how many yards of offense did you have in the fourth quarter against South Carolina? And holding on to that slim lead.
Yep. Pitt game, the South Carolina game, the SMU game.
Yep.
All struggling to get it done in the second half, and specifically those fourth quarters.
Yeah.
Where you're just producing no offense.
Yeah, the flea flicker for the Maffa, or for a Maffa fumble. Yeah, that was, well, wasn't a flea flicker. It was a double reverse. But yeah, I know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Just an unfortunate,
poor execution.
Yeah.
It would have actually been a decent play had the handoff gone according to plan.
Yeah. My problem is just like your regular offense was having success.
Was working. Yeah, you didn't need to do that.
Yeah.
And that goes into a lot of the stuff that has happened with this Clemson offense. The fact that they continue to use Phil Maffa on the perimeter, like he's suddenly going to become good at that, still baffles me to this day. And I'm not going to hold out hope that we don't see it in the Texas game, because we very well could. So.
All right. Todd says, congratulations on your 100th show. Thank you so much, Todd. We appreciate it. Make sure you tune in for it next week. It's going to be a fun one. And Tig says, Clemson is a first half team, run and hide in the second half.
They can be like that.
They've certainly had their moments like that.
They've shown the lack of ability to finish a game. That's for sure.
Yep. Wet Sox says, who's y'all's favorite player on offense and defense? Oh, okay. Favorite player on offense? I'm going to go I'm going to go Antonio Williams, offense. Did I take yours?
Yeah. No, it's all good. It's all good.
Hey, we can have the same one. I mean, and then in defense, I'm going to go. I'm going to go RJ Mickens. I've just always had so much. I'm a huge RJ Mickens guy. He's been one of the most consistent players on this defense for multiple years.
Yeah.
When he's healthy, he's been an invaluable part of this defense. So probably not a conventional pick for most people, but I'm a huge RJ Mickens guy. So yeah, I think those would be my two.
Yeah, those are two really good ones. Offense for me is Antonio Williams. I would pick another one, but it's Antonio Williams. He's just that dude on offense. He's that guy.
Yeah.
He's your leader. He's your best receiver. He's your most consistent guy as far as skill player on that side of the ball. And look no further than who did they draw the play up for when the game was on the line in the ACC championship game? It was Antonio Williams, because again, he's that guy. And then on the defensive side of the ball, for me, I think it's TJ Parker.
TJ would have been second for me. Yeah.
I'm always partial to the edge guys and the defensive line in general, but I mean, he's had a stellar year, a really good season, and hasn't always had a lot of help on the other side of the defensive line, opposite of him at times, but just his motor, the way that he consistently attacks every single play. Last week you see him, he comes around, he swats the ball from the quarterback, sacks him, and then recovers the fumble at the same time. Just a crazy play. But honorable mention, man, Sammy Brown's coming on, dude.
Oh yeah,
that dude's quietly leading your team in tackles every game since he started playing major snaps. He leads the team in tackles every game.
Yeah.
Even when he gets set in a fourth quarter. Not salty about that at all.
No, not at all.
But that would be, an honorable mention for me, is because he's still a freshman, so I'm going to give the nod to the older guys. But that dude he's for real. we got a good one there. We got a good one.
Let's see what some of you guys said. Dylan, Antonio Williams, and TJ Parker. Wet Sox picked. Excuse me. OPH, and that's a good pick. And Sammy Brown.
That is a good pick. Olsen Pat Henry.
Yeah, Dylan mentions that RJ Mickens is going back to Texas too. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, yes, he is.
He is from Texas.
Yeah,
and his dad played in the NFL. John says, "I'm a Avion Terrell fan." Yeah, man, he's right up there for me too. Just what a dog, man.
I can't wait to see him next year too. Like, this year is kind of his first full year of getting the primary snaps. Man, that dude's good.
Yeah, man.
We're only gonna have him for one more year.
Yeah. He's already like getting tons of first round love right now.
Yeah. Luckily for us, he can't go pro.
Yeah.
We get to keep him for one more year.
One more year of
Avion Terrell.
Hopefully, I don't know if the Terrell family has another one cooking. I don't think.
Yeah, they got another one. They got a third one cooking over there because we need one.
I
send them our way.
I haven't heard about them, so I think we've ran out of our allotted Terrells. But
dang.
Man,
well, that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Thought maybe they had one more for us, but I guess not.
I guess not. Guess we're a little too greedy. All right, I think that's going to do it. We hit the 2.5, plus hour mark. So it is a good place to wrap it up.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. 2.5 hours in. It don't feel like it's been that long, but we had a lot to talk about tonight. It was a great show. Appreciate all of you guys showing up. We got 50 people, in the live chat right now. Make sure you guys hit that like button on the way out. It really helps us out. Hit that subscribe button as well. Consider hanging out with us for the long term. Me and Jordan do this all-in show every Wednesday at 8 p.m. It will continue through the off season, just like it always has. So we don't go away just because the season ends. So consider sticking it out with us. And also the 100th episode coming next week. Next Wednesday will be the 100th episode of the All In Show. So hope you guys will show up for that. Come support us for our 100th episode, and we'll do a special call-in portion at the end of that show, and hopefully chop it up with you guys a little bit, and have you guys call in and tell us about how you heard about the show, how long you've been listening, where you're from, whatever you want to share. Then you can ask us some questions as well, and we'll have a good time just hanging out and enjoying the 100th episode. So that'll be fun.
Absolutely. And we'll be right here next week to celebrate it with y'all, because you guys have been every bit a part of the growth of this channel and the growth of this show. So we're excited for it.
Absolutely. 100th episode coming next week. Shout out to the super chats from Steel Gamble. Appreciate you supporting the channel, brother. It is much appreciated by myself and Jordan. But we will see you guys next Wednesday, 8 p.m. right here on the Clemson channel at the Voice of College Football. Until then, I'm Tiger Paul Craven. He's Jordan Bowman. Go Tigers.
Later, y'all.